Ever wonder why silence feels more powerful than shouting back? What if your silence doesn't make you weak, but proves you've already won? Some people speak to provoke, not to connect, and silence is the one thing they can't control. The power of silence, how staying quiet becomes strength. There's something deeply misunderstood about silence. Many see it as submission, a sign of surrender, that if someone disrespects you and you say nothing, it must mean they've won. But let me tell you, silence, when chosen intentionally, is not weakness. It's one of the greatest displays of strength. You see, we live in a world where immediate reaction is expected, where shouting, clapping back, or proving your point feels like the only way to defend yourself. But reacting in the heat of the moment doesn't make you stronger. It gives the other person exactly what they were after: control. The moment they can pull you into anger, frustration, or impulsive words, they're no longer trying to win. They already have. Take a moment and think. How many times have you watched someone explode after being insulted? Did they look powerful or out of control? The truth is, the loudest person in the room often isn't the most powerful. Power lies in discipline, in restraint, in the ability to remain composed even when every part of you wants to speak. That's why staying silent after disrespect is so powerful. It tells the world that no one owns your emotions, that your peace isn't up for grabs. Some people will test you. They'll prod at your patience just to see what happens when they push the wrong button. Why? Because they themselves are full of chaos. They want to draw you into their storm to feel like they've got power, and if they can't control their own lives, they'll try to control yours. But when you refuse to engage, when you meet their noise with stillness, you take away their weapon. Of course, silence doesn't mean you didn't feel it. It doesn't mean you weren't hurt. You're human. You felt the sting. But strength isn't about never feeling. It's about what you choose to do with those feelings. Do you give them your energy? Do you argue with someone who doesn't even deserve your words? Or do you protect your peace, knowing that silence often speaks louder than anger? Silence makes people uncomfortable, especially those who expect a fight. It forces them to reflect on their own behavior without distraction. They can't twist your response if you haven't given them one. Some may argue, but if I don't defend myself, won't they think I'm weak? No. When you know your worth, you don't need to perform for anyone. A lion doesn't announce its strength, it simply walks with it. True power doesn't need validation. When you carry yourself with confidence, people notice, even when you say nothing. Silence is not avoidance, it's wisdom. It's choosing your response with purpose. Because not every insult deserves your energy, and not every battle is meant to be fought. Some people speak just to provoke. Some arguments are traps, designed to drain you. But when you don't take the bait, you win, without lifting a finger. Next time you feel disrespected, breathe. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Does this change who I am? The answer will almost always be no, because your value isn't determined by someone else's words, and their negativity is not yours to carry. Think of disrespect as bait. It's laid out, hoping you'll bite. And once you do, they've got what they wanted: your attention, your peace, your energy. Every time you engage in an argument that adds no value, you're giving away something precious. And here's what's worse. Some people don't want solutions. They don't want to build anything. They want destruction. They want to see you lose your calm, because in doing so, they feel a twisted sense of victory. But when you stay grounded, when you hold on to your silence, you deny them that victory. You protect your energy, which is limited. You only have so much to give. Why waste it on people who don't even respect your presence? Have you ever noticed how some people seem to thrive on conflict? They stir tension like it's oxygen. They feed off drama and then step back to watch others burn. But if you refuse to ignite, their fire dies out. No fuel, no flame. Silence in these moments becomes your shield. It doesn't mean you missed the insult. It means you chose peace over pride. It means you valued your purpose more than a petty comeback. And the truth is, most of those explosive reactions don't solve anything. They just add fuel to chaos. But silence? Silence disarms. Silence preserves your strength. Silence ends the game before it even starts. Some will say, I need to defend myself. But sometimes the most powerful form of defense is simply walking away. not with anger, not with sarcasm, just with self-respect. So next time someone throws words like knives, ask yourself, is this worth my peace? If the answer is no, then let it go. Walk away knowing that your silence held more dignity than any insult ever could. And now, having explored the weight and wisdom of silence, it's time to move one layer deeper. Because not all battles are external. Sometimes the real chaos comes from within. Let's take a closer look in page 2. When you protect your peace with silence, you begin to see what truly drains you. Because here's the truth. You're losing more than just your words when you engage in chaos. You're losing sleep. You're giving away your emotional balance. You're drowning in stress that deep down doesn't even belong to you. And perhaps the most difficult realization, the people who keep pulling you into that chaos, they never had any intention of changing. You can love them. You can pray for them. You can hope for their healing. But the one thing you can't do, you can't carry them. You cannot force someone to heal if they're determined to hold on to pain. You cannot force peace into someone's life when they thrive on conflict. That's a choice they must make for themselves. And until they do, the most powerful, loving and wise thing you can do is step back. Protect your peace. Refuse to be pulled into a loop of the same arguments, the same manipulations, the same emotional roller coasters. Let them sit with the consequences they've spent so long avoiding. Let them learn the hard way, if that's what it takes. Yes, when you choose distance, they may react. They may accuse you of abandoning them. They'll say, you've changed. They'll try to guilt trip you with memories of how many times you were there before, hoping you'll fall back into the cycle. But don't take the bait. You are not cruel for choosing calm. You are not heartless for saying enough. You are not wrong for choosing clarity over confusion. Many of you have spent not just years but decades sacrificing your mental, emotional and even physical well-being for people who refuse to carry their own weight. You've allowed their storm to become your storm. You've picked up every piece of their mess and called it your responsibility. But the truth is, that was never your job. Now it's time. It's time to reclaim your focus. Time to protect the peace you fought so hard for. Time to stop draining your precious energy on chaos that leads nowhere. Because peace is priceless, and there's nothing more sacred than waking up without a battle already raging in your mind. You deserve mornings filled with quiet gratitude, not dread. You deserve to sip your coffee without bracing for a call that brings more drama. You deserve to live light, without emotional baggage that was never yours. And if that means saying no, say it with confidence. If that means setting boundaries, set them with love. If that means letting go, let go with grace. Your energy is limited, and every moment you spend defending yourself, chasing closure, or trying to fix what someone else keeps breaking is a moment stolen from your purpose. So let them go. Let them figure it out. Let them face what they've created without dragging you into it. And you move forward. You breathe again. You find joy in the stillness. You walk in the light of your own clarity. But even when the noise outside quiets down, there's still another battle waiting inside. The voices you've been believing for far too long. Some weren't shouted, some were whispered, but all of them left a mark. Let's talk about that next. When you let go of the chaos, you start hearing the lies you've carried. Silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. And those who master it, they win battles without lifting a single word. Let's continue from where we left off. The people who've truly left their mark in this world, do you know what they didn't do? They didn't waste their time clapping back at every critic. They didn't engage every hater or try to convince every doubter. Instead, they let their work speak. They let their results shout. They let their success tell the story. And that's exactly what you need to do. Don't fall into the trap of explaining your greatness to small minds. Just be great. Keep walking. Let your consistency, your discipline, your quiet wins speak louder than any comeback ever could. Because people notice. They always do. In the beginning, they'll try to pull you down. They'll call you foolish. They'll say you're wasting time, that you'll never make it. But the moment they realize nothing shakes you, nothing stops you, and that you won't even acknowledge their negativity, everything changes. They fall silent. Why? Because nothing confuses people more than someone who refuses to react. Nothing humbles them more than knowing their insults had zero power over your mind or emotions. And when the wins show up, when your progress becomes undeniable, those same people, they're forced to watch, forced to acknowledge you. That's the power of silence, backed by action. Remaining quiet after disrespect isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You're choosing to channel your energy where it actually matters. Let them talk. Let them waste air. Meanwhile, you're building, you're growing, you're rising. Because at the end of the day, your words won't prove them wrong. Your results will. Now let's be honest. Disrespect stings. It hits deep. Someone says something dismissive, mocks you, or underestimates you, and instantly, something in you flares up. You feel it in your chest. You want to correct them. You want to defend your worth. But here's the truth. Disrespect isn't really about you. It's a mirror showing who they are. People treat others based on what's inside them. A bitter heart spreads bitterness. An insecure soul tries to shrink others. Someone drowning in misery will always try to pull others under. So if you take it personally, if you let it get under your skin, you're carrying a burden that was never yours to hold. You're making their brokenness your battle, and the moment you do, you hand them power they should never have had. That's why silence is strength. It says, I see what you're doing, but I'm not playing. I hear your words, but they don't touch my peace. Because people who walk around disrespecting others aren't seeking truth. They're seeking control. They want a reaction. They want to feel powerful. They want to believe they have the ability to shake your ground. But when you stay silent, calm, steady, unshaken, they're left with nothing but their own reflection. And that's what they're really trying to avoid. They insult to hide. They provoke to distract. They manipulate to avoid being seen. And the worst mistake you can make? Trying to reason with someone who's not ready to listen. Trying to demand respect from someone who doesn't even respect themselves. You can't teach someone to value you when they've never learned to value themselves. You can't make someone give you something they don't carry within. The wisest thing you can do? Walk away. Not in defeat. Not in silence because you're weak, but because you're wise. Because you know that engaging in pointless arguments drains the very energy you need for something greater. You weren't born to waste your life convincing people of your worth. You weren't created to fight for validation from those who don't even value their own reflection. Some people will never respect you, no matter what you do. And you know what? That's okay, because their respect is not a requirement for your success. Their approval isn't the key to your growth. Their words don't define your path. What defines you is how you carry yourself, with dignity, with intention, with calm. What defines you is how you keep showing up, even when others try to tear you down. What defines you is how you protect your peace and guard your spirit. So the next time someone disrespects you, pause and remember, it's not about you, it never was. It's about their pain, their insecurities, their lack of healing. You don't need to carry what isn't yours. Let them deal with the weight of their own words. Let them sit in the storm they created. And you stay quiet, you stay focused, you stay free. But what about that split-second moment, right after the disrespect lands, when your pride kicks in, your emotions rise, and everything in you wants to fire back? Let's talk about that crucial crossroad next, the battle between impulse and discipline, and how mastering that moment could change everything. Let's pick up right where we left off, where silence becomes your armor and your energy is too sacred to waste. There's a truth that's often hard to swallow. You cannot force someone to give what they've never learned to hold within themselves, and that includes respect, maturity, empathy, and integrity. Some people simply don't carry those qualities, and trying to extract them is like demanding water from a dry well. The wisest move? Walk away. Not because you're defeated, but because you've evolved. Engaging in battles that lead nowhere, conversations that drain, and arguments that twist your spirit. That's not strength. That's a distraction. You weren't placed on this earth to waste your breath proving your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you, especially not to the small-minded, the ones who don't even show themselves enough dignity to offer it to others. You've got bigger things ahead, bigger dreams, greater purpose, a higher path. And truthfully, some people will never give you the respect you deserve. Not because you don't deserve it, but because they can't give what they don't possess. And that's okay. Because their validation isn't necessary for your progress. Their approval is not the gatekeeper of your future. Their opinion? It doesn't shape your destiny. What does? The way you carry yourself, the way you move forward, the way you refuse to let their bitterness infect your peace. So when disrespect comes your way, and it will, pause and remember, it's not about you. It never was. It's about their emptiness, their wounds, their own unresolved battles. You don't have to pick up their pain and carry it as your own. Stay quiet. Protect your peace. Let them wrestle with the weight of their own words. Because at the end of the day, disrespect reveals more about the giver than the receiver. There's this very specific moment, right after you're disrespected, when the fire rises. Your emotions flood in. Your pride tightens in your chest. Everything in you wants to say something, do something, prove something. That moment is the crossroads. One path, the quick reaction, the sharp retort, the emotional snap. The other path, restraint. Silence. Stillness. Most people take the first route. They believe that firing back equals strength, that if they don't say something, they're being walked over. But here's what really happens when you react from emotion. You're no longer in control. They are. You've handed them your peace on a silver platter. True dignity? It's not about how loud you can yell. It's not about crafting the perfect comeback. It's about knowing when to walk away. It's about having the strength to remain rooted while others try to shake you. It's about refusing to participate in a battle that never deserved your presence. Because people will try you. They'll push your buttons. They'll test your patience, poke at your insecurities, try to drag you down into their mess. And the second you step out of character, you've already lost. You're now reacting instead of choosing. You've entered their chaotic playground, and that's where they thrive. That's why silence isn't weakness. Silence is dignity. Silence is power. Silence says you don't have that kind of control over me. And oh, how that confuses people. Most don't understand this kind of restraint. They think if you don't respond, you're scared. But the truth is, real confidence doesn't need a mic. A lion doesn't need to roar to remind the jungle who it is. The loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. The ones who always have something to say, always trying to get the last word, that's not strength. That's insecurity dressed up in noise. True power is seen in the one who holds it together while others fall apart. It's in the person who walks away, not because they're weak, but because they're wise. Some people will insult you just to get a reaction. They want you to lose it. They want to knock you off balance. But when you don't give them what they're looking for, when you remain calm, composed, unmoved, you take back every ounce of power they tried to steal. They're left with nothing. And best of all, you walk away with your story still intact. You're not remembered for snapping. You're remembered for your composure, your control, your strength. That's what leaves a mark. So the next time disrespect comes knocking, don't think of silence as backing down. Think of it as rising above, as standing tall in your confidence, as choosing not to play small in a petty game. Let your dignity be the final word. Because in the end, that is the real victory. There's power in patience. There's clarity in calm. There's wisdom in waiting. Time has a way of saying what words never could. And when the dust settles, when your success speaks louder than any argument ever could, the same people who doubted you, who disrespected you, they'll watch in silence, because nothing humbles a critic faster than watching you rise. Up next, let's go even deeper into the trap of emotional chaos and why some people thrive on pulling you down with them. But how you respond, that's where your freedom begins. Stay tuned. You win not by reacting, but by refusing to play their game. You see, when you react to disrespect, when you let their words pull you into their chaos, they win. But when you don't react, when you hold your peace, when you don't stoop to match their energy, that's when the entire balance shifts. That's when all the power comes back to you. They suddenly have nothing to feed off. No drama to escalate, no reaction to twist. And the best part, when you walk away with your dignity intact, when you stay calm, composed, unshaken, you stay in full control of your own story. You don't let a single moment of emotional weakness rewrite your narrative. You're not remembered for a meltdown. You're remembered for your restraint, your poise, your unwavering confidence. And that's rare. That's power. So the next time disrespect shows up, don't look at silence as weakness. Look at it as your highest form of strength. Look at it as rising above, not backing down. Because truthfully, you're too grounded to wrestle in the mud. Every time you choose peace over pettiness, you're making a statement. I know who I am. I don't need to prove it to you. And that drives them crazy. Because there's a unique, undeniable power in patience. In letting time do what no argument ever could. When someone disrespects you, your natural instinct might be to react, to defend yourself, to correct them, to demand justice. But most people who dish out disrespect, they're not looking for clarity. They're not interested in truth. They're operating from ego, from pain, from insecurity masked as arrogance. They want to feel big by making you feel small. And when you react, you step into their world, a world ruled by chaos and emotion. Once you do that, you've already surrendered your control. But the strongest response is no response. Not because you don't have the words, but because you understand something deeper. Time will speak on your behalf. Nothing silences a critic like reality. Nothing shuts down hate like undeniable success. And nothing confuses the disrespectful more than watching the very person they tried to break rise even higher. When you hold your peace, you let life take care of what your words don't need to. And it does. People who disrespect you, they expect rage, they expect a comeback. They want to see that they've rattled you. But when you give them nothing, when your silence forces them to sit in their own mess, their own words, their own behavior, something powerful happens. They start to hear themselves. They reflect, they question, they feel the discomfort they tried to hand to you. And the best part? You didn't lift a finger. You didn't waste a breath. Because not everything broken is yours to fix. Not every situation requires your intervention. Some things are handled better by time than by talk. Truth rises, character reveals, karma, if you will, delivers. You don't have to seek revenge. You don't need to hold bitterness. You don't have to wish them harm. Just stay focused. Keep moving forward. Let your growth be your only response. Let your peace be your greatest clap back. Let your discipline speak louder than your disappointment. There's an old truth that always rings loud in the quiet. What goes around comes around. They can talk, they can doubt, they can mock, they can throw every stone they can carry. But what they can't do, they can't stop what's meant for you. They can't block the favor on your life. They can't reverse the progress you've made. And they certainly can't take away the strength that comes from staying grounded while they spiral. So be still, be calm, be focused. Not because you're afraid to speak, but because you trust that time will speak louder. And when it does, those who disrespected you, those who laughed, those who doubted, those who whispered you'd never make it, they'll be left with no choice but to sit in silence and watch you become everything they said you couldn't be. And you won't even have to say a word. Coming up next, let's talk about reclaiming your peace even in the middle of pressure. How to stay grounded when life and people try to pull you in every direction. If today's message touched something deep in your heart, don't just scroll away. This might be the reminder someone else out there needs too. Take a second to hit that like button, share this with a friend, and subscribe to Limitless Growth, the place where your journey toward inner strength, clarity, and purpose is not only respected, it's celebrated. At Limitless Growth, we believe in choosing peace over chaos, discipline over noise, and truth over ego. And if that resonates with you, then you're in the right place. This isn't just a channel. It's a space for thinkers, warriors, dreamers, and anyone who's tired of letting the world define their worth. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever chosen silence instead of reaction? Was it misunderstood, or was it your most powerful move yet? Drop your story in the comments below. Because your voice matters here. Someone else may need exactly what you've lived through. And don't forget to tap the notification bell so you'll never miss new content that strengthens your mind, heals your heart, and pushes you to grow without limits. Let's grow together. One mindset, one choice, one silent victory at a time. You are stronger than the moment. You are wiser than the noise. You are exactly where growth begins. This is Limitless Growth. Until next time, stay grounded, stay focused, and keep rising. Why your silence is your loudest victory. Limitless growth. Have you ever been in a moment where you wanted to scream? Not because you were weak, not because you didn't know what to say, but because you knew deep down your peace was more important than proving a point. That's what limitless growth is all about. We live in a world where reactions are currency, where the loudest voice often drowns out the wisest one. But here's the truth most people miss. Your silence isn't you backing down, it's you rising above. Every time you choose stillness over chaos, every time you walk away instead of breaking down, you're winning. Quietly, powerfully, unapologetically. Some people will never understand this strength. They'll call you cold for protecting your peace. They'll say you've changed when you finally choose calm over conflict. They'll label you distant when you stop carrying battles that don't belong to you. But here's what we've learned on this journey. You don't owe anyone access to your spirit just because they're loud. The trap of emotional chaos. Some people don't argue to resolve anything. They argue to pull you in, to control the tone of the conversation, the energy of your day, even the pace of your healing. They'll disrespect you with a smile. They'll belittle you in subtle ways. They'll test your boundaries just to see how much they can get away with. But you're evolving. You're no longer wasting precious energy trying to explain your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. And that's why we built this space, Limitless Growth, not as just a YouTube channel, but as a safe haven. A home for thinkers, for empaths, for warriors tired of being drained by emotional vampires, for dreamers who no longer want to shrink to fit into small conversations. Choosing growth over reaction. Do you know what happens when you stop reacting to disrespect? You disrupt the cycle. You cut the fuel to their fire. You stop dancing to the rhythm of someone else's dysfunction. And in that stillness, something shifts. You hear yourself more clearly. You feel your own energy returning. You begin to rebuild what they tried to tear down. You realize, my peace is too valuable to trade for temporary validation. You stop performing. You stop proving. You start protecting. Why this message matters? Because maybe, like so many of us, you've been there. You've sat in rooms where your silence was mistaken for weakness. You've walked away from arguments only to be called passive. You've swallowed disrespect, not because you lacked a voice, but because you finally recognized the strength it takes to remain still when everything in you is screaming to react. That's why this community exists. We're not here to be louder. We're here to be wiser. We're here to grow, not just in knowledge, but in discernment. To master not just success, but peace. To walk away from the noise and walk into our calling. What happens when you stay silent? When you stop reacting, you stop giving away your power. And guess what? The people who tried to control you, they notice. The ones who expected you to snap, they get confused. Because your silence isn't empty. It's full of power. It says, I don't need to match your chaos. I've made peace with who I am. I've outgrown the urge to prove myself. You can keep talking, I'll keep walking. And that's what we believe here at Limitless Growth. Let's talk about you now. Take a moment to breathe. Think of the times you stayed quiet on purpose. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Not because you couldn't speak, but because it wasn't worth your spirit. Was that moment misunderstood by others? Or was it the beginning of your freedom? We want to hear your story. Share it in the comments, because somewhere out there is someone who needs to read what you've lived through. Someone who thinks they're alone in their silence. Someone who's questioning if walking away was the right move. Someone who doesn't know yet that peace is louder than pride. Your voice could be the bridge that leads them to healing. Why you should subscribe right now. At Limitless Growth, we're building more than a channel. We're creating a movement, a place where clarity is more important than chaos, where discipline is more powerful than drama, where silence isn't shame, it's strength. If you've ever felt too deep for shallow conversations, if you've ever been told you're too sensitive just because you felt too much, if you've ever chosen growth over reaction, even when it hurt, then this is your space, and we want you here, not just as a viewer, but as a voice. Hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell so you never miss a video that speaks to your soul. And most importantly, stay connected. Because real transformation doesn't happen in one moment. It happens in community. One silent victory at a time. This is your reminder. You are not weak for being calm. You are not wrong for choosing stillness. You are not heartless for walking away from chaos. You are growing. You are healing. You are rising quietly, steadily, powerfully. So the next time someone tries to pull you into their storm, stand tall, breathe deep, and remember, you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Your peace is your power, your growth is your greatest comeback, and your silence, that's your crown. Let's grow together. One mindset, one choice, one silent victory at a time. This is Limitless Growth, and we're just getting started.